Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for logging on this morning. My name is Rodney Poole, and I am the program coordinator here, one of the program coordinators for Talk It Out NC. We are the governor's initiative to reduce underage drinking here in the state of North Carolina, and we really believe we can do it. We can reduce underage drinking here in our state, but it's going to take effort from everyone. I put together a brief PowerPoint here. I'm not going to hold you all long, and I want to encourage you to jump in with questions if you have any at all. Or if you want to have further discussion, we are completely available. You can reach out to me specifically. But we are a group of caring, passionate, professional individuals who we really just care about young people. We care about families, and we love what we do. We've been around, Talking Out NC's been around since about 2014, and we really believe that we can reduce underage drinking here in our state, but we have to be active. We have to be active. We have to have conversations with young people. We're out in the community. We're all over the state, literally from county to county. We cover all 100 counties. And so if you have an opportunity or a event coming up and you think that we might be a good fit for sharing with parents or students, please feel free to reach out to us. So personally, I've been doing this work for about 20 years now. I did the math just recently. I started out with the Hazel and Betty Ford Foundation, and they organization called FCD, Freedom from Chemical Dependency, and that's where my training started. I've traveled the world: Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Singapore, Thailand, all over the world, and literally from coast to coast here in the U.S., presenting specific curriculum about underage alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use. And I was in Thailand one Monday morning, and it was 8 a.m. and it was had to be. If you've ever been to Thailand, you know the heat is oppressive. It's like jungle. And I had on a suit, and because you want to make a good first impression. And I'm walking into the school, and I'm literally sweating. I'm soaking wet under my suit. And I thought to myself, there's work to be done right in North Carolina. He's like, what am I doing here in Thailand? So I came across actually a billboard. It was a back of an 18-wheeler, the Talk It Out NC logo. And it jumped out to me. I did some research and I connected with Jim Van Hecky, and here I am 6 years later. I just completed in the process of completing my sixth year of doing this work. So for about 20 years now, I've literally been on stages and classrooms, webinars, doing TV interviews about the risks of underage alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use. And I love this work. I absolutely love this work. And like I said, we have an amazing team of individuals who really care about this work. So the objectives of today's presentation, we are going to look at the reality of underage drinking, and we'll also cover some of the risks. There are a number of risks. And by the way, we're not going to cover all of them. We'll do our best to make a major dent, but it's so many risks for a young person consuming alcohol in particular that don't really exist for a full-grown adult. We'll look at the power of caregiver conversations. Research is very clear. When the frequency and the effectiveness of those conversations increases, we see declines in use. As well, I will offer some tips for having effective conversations with young people about the risks of underage drinking. So, full disclosure, I'm kind of struggling today. I'll be honest with you. Full disclosure. Um, as we prepare for the holiday season, and we think about, my wife sent me a menu last night for me to pick up things from the grocery store, and we got our list of gifts, and we're sending out Christmas cards and all that type of thing. There are some families that are really struggling, I cannot imagine the level of sadness that is taking place in some households here in our country. Um, and I just, something's got to change. Something has got to change. I don't have the answers, but something I know. This we can't keep going. We can't keep. When I heard the announcement on the news for Monday, I'm like, again. Well, that's all I'm going to say about that. But my condolences in particular go out to those that were affected by that horrible, horrible situation. So, ladies and gentlemen, why is it important? that young caregivers are having conversations with young people about the risk of underage drinking in particular. I'll say this: as adults, we have the absolute amazing opportunity. We have uh, the responsibility to assist young people in transitioning from teenagehood, from young adulthood into adulthood. Kids are watching, they're listening, they're paying attention, they're trying to figure it out. And what's really amazing is that no kid popped out with a how-to manual, how to raise that kid. If this happens, do that. And for those that may have more than one child, what may have worked for child A may not work for child B. You know that child B may need way more than child A need. I mean, it's just the kids are different. These human beings are different. Oh, I almost forgot. Do me a huge favor. Type in the chat, if you will, your name and your location, as well as your title, what organization you work for, as well as what you do in that organization. And please, feel free to connect with us. We really want to. We're not a big fan of just doing our own thing. We want to connect and collaborate. This is how we're going to reduce underage drinking here in our state. We have to work together. We have to work together. We did a survey almost a couple years back now, and we found out that based upon that, we measured about 800 families with young people. 93% of those students said that they believe that if parents had more conversations with them about underage drinking, we could reduce underage drinking. That was the big takeaway for me, is that teenagers, and not only that, a large number of those teenagers felt that underage drinking is a problem. And a number of those students also said it's a major problem here in North Carolina. Now, I grew up back in the 70s, and I'm operating as a lot of adults are on what worked for me back then. And so, but this is a different group of young people. I'm in classrooms on a fairly regular basis. I'm in schools on a fairly regular basis. This is a different group of young people, but there are some similarities. There are some similarities. Kids still want to feel a part of. Kids still want to be liked. Some kids want to be popular. Some don't really. It's not a major issue for them, but they're all really trying to figure it out. And they're paying attention, not just to their peers, but they're paying attention to adults as well. And there are a lot of young people that say, well, yeah, my parents just, we don't talk about it. But there are some students that say, yeah, my parents talk about it all the time. They won't shut up about it. That's what it's got to take, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to take those conversations on a regular basis. It's recommended you don't wait until they're 16, 17 years old to start talking about healthy decision making, about what does health look like, about the importance of rules, about the risks of underage drinking for them. What it's different for a full grown adult. So we really want to encourage you to have those conversations. What's happening now currently is that young people are dying. Young people are dying due to alcohol consumption. Every year, over 4,000 teens death annual every year, over more than 4,000. That's too many. That's too many. And it doesn't make the news all the time. The car crashes, the overdoses, um, the injuries that take place, it seldom makes the news. But it's happening right here in our country. 29% of students admit to drinking by age 15, and the research is very clear. The earlier a person starts consuming alcohol, the higher the risk for a number of health issues. Performance issues with academics, athletics, having to lie to their parents, hiding things, walking around with secrets, injuries, accidents, behavior that could be really dangerous, unwanted sexual stuff. There's a bunch of risk for a young person who starts drinking. And one of the big reasons why is that when young people drink, the drinking is seldom moderate. The drinking is seldom moderate. When young people get together and drink, you think about it. When you were a teenager, and for those that look, better yet, I'll speak for myself. Full disclosure, we never drank in moderation, ever, ever, ever. You better keep up. Come on, bro. Don't be a insert name here. That type of drinking. Come on, man. What are you doing? What are you babysitting that thing over there? What are you doing? Let's go. The drinking was seldom in moderation. It was almost always in the form of binge drinking. Young people don't drink as frequently, but when they do, the drinking is very frequently at dangerous levels. Competitions, one-upsmanship, if you will. So we really have to make sure that we're having conversations with young people. Their brains are wired to seek novelty, the limbic system, part of the brain responsible for emotion and pleasure, is more developed than the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for consequential thinking, impulse control, and executive functioning, if you will. So they're being driven, they're being motivated by fun, what they seem is a great idea or fun or novelty, opposed to, you know what, I'm only gonna have one beer tonight. I've got class tomorrow. I've got to, that's how they're operating. So that's another reason why it's super important that we're having conversations with kids about the risks. There are short and long-term results, consequences for a teenager who's drinking. Number of health issues. One of the big ones is not only drinking and driving, but riding with someone who's been drinking, as well as the risk of overdose. You can overdose on alcohol. Vomiting is the first stage of alcohol poisoning. I make sure I share that with students when we talk about the levels of intoxication in a classroom and what may happen if a person, chugs a beer or if they chug, 6 shots. What may happen? What's going on in the body on a short-term basis? But there are long-term consequences as well. Um, Risks of academic athletic performance, the potential for brain damage is there. Their brains are still developing. The human brain continues to develop upwards of age 25. So for a teenager who's consuming alcohol, it's much different than a full-grown 30-year-old adult who's drinking. It's just the different. It can't be more clear that, and I haven't seen any research in my 20 years of doing this work that supports the idea that we should be allowing teenagers to drink, even supervised. From a health standpoint, you think about it. Even if I always share this with my presentations. If I take all the keys and let the kids drink in the basement, the only guarantee I can guarantee is that all the cars are going to be safe. But that's about it. For a young person that has a potential genetic predisposition towards substance use disorder, allowing them to drink is like, potentially pouring gas on a little flame that's there. It's just, there's so many risks for a young person consuming alcohol compared to a full-grown adult. If anyone has teenagers, it's like from day to day, who is this person in my house? And that's the developmental the development of human beings. We go through all sorts of things, but for them, their brains are developing, and so they're experiencing a whole host of emotions, and let's add in social media on top of that. And the ability to take pictures of ourselves and post them and hope we get some likes, and all sorts of, am I going to go to college? If so, which one? Do my friends like me? What's going on? It's just so much that they're going through. I read reports just recently, especially for young ladies, for girls in particular, the rate of anxiety and depression has skyrocketed. And we really believe a big part of that is social media and smartphones. But just think about it. I mean, that generation, the generation of teenagers, came through COVID. There are some adults who still need therapy from COVID, who are still struggling with what happened during that time. So families may have been ripped apart financially, socially, It's just a number of things happened during that time, and a lot of young people did not really have the coping skills that a lot of adults have. So they came through that. So it's really important that you pay attention to your kids, check in with them periodically, on a regular basis, actually. Have conversations with them, open-ended questions, not just, how was your day, that type of thing, but, asking them questions such as, what do you think about the shooting? Yeah, they have opinions. They're trying to figure it out. Ask them questions such as, what do you think about the current political situation? They have opinions. I love that because when I go to classes and I don't judge, and I kind of leave my opinion out of it. Now I'm kind of biased. I may not have shared this, but I'm in my 32nd year of recovery. My 32nd year. No drinking, no drugs, but I used substances as a high school student. So I guess I'm kind of biased, but I leave my opinion out of the conversation. And I think they really appreciate that. I present what the research shows. And I encourage them, govern yourself accordingly, but you can't say no one told you that your brain's still developing, and adding alcohol to your brain while you're developing may have short and long-term consequences. They really appreciate that. We have to have these tough conversations with our kids. Start early. Start early, and it doesn't have to be about drugs. Like I said, mental health. What is mental health? What's physical health? What is social health? How does it feel to be healthy? How do you know when you're not feeling healthy? How do you know, what do you do? Who do you reach out to for support? Help them help them realize that you're an ally and you're one of their biggest cheerleaders. We want our kids to succeed. We want them to do well. Let's help them. Let's help them out. For a young person who's consuming alcohol, it definitely affects their brain. The developing brain is fragile. There's all sorts of things happening. Alcohol seems to get in the way of healthy brain development. On the left is a brain scan of a 15-year-old non-drinker during a memory exercise, and on the right is a brain scan of a 15-year-old heavy drinker during the same memory exercise. As we see on the left, the brain's firing on all cylinders. There's all sorts of things happening. And I ask kids all the time, how important is your brain currently during these school years? It's crucial. It's absolutely crucial. This is why those that drink heavily, young people, appear to have smaller hippocampus, the portion of the brain that's actually responsible for memory. So another reason why we have to have those conversations. Teens who consume alcohol are just at risk of a host of not just the health issues, but decision making, overall performance, uh, a level of life satisfaction that it may not be as it could have been. Difficulties with jobs and careers, and physical health, mental health, social health, emotional health. It's just a number of risks for a young person who starts consuming alcohol. I tell kids all the time, you life is hard. Life can be difficult. It's not necessarily what happens to us that makes the difference, but it's how we deal with those situations. When we talk about resilience, but how we deal with situations. And I encourage them to realize that having drama at school, to a certain extent, is developmental. We have to learn how to get along with people we don't like. Oh, and I remind them, not everyone's going to like you. And that's okay. But the important thing is, do you like you? And if not, we have to figure out what's going on with that. I encourage kids all the time, seek support from professionals. Professional counseling, therapy, self-help groups saved my life. Talking about my stuff, something about it, just something, and talking about it not just to my friends and to my peers or to people that like me and are just going to say, yeah, whatever, Rodney, but people that could help. Whether it was someone that had longer time in recovery than I did, or an actual trained therapist, things helped. Doing that work, I consider to be was helpful. So another reason why we have to have those conversations with young people, and not just about alcohol, but about their hopes and dreams. What are they trying to achieve, and how we can help as adults. Now, I want to encourage y'all to realize that not everyone's drinking. Not all high school students. That I cringe when I hear adults say, "Well, all kids drink." No, not all kids do. That's like saying, "Well, everyone in fraternities drink." Well, I'm in a fraternity. I don't drink. Dispel the myth completely right then and there. Every year, they're monitoring the future, an organization. It's a collaboration between the National Institute of Drug Abuse and the University of Michigan. They survey about, I want to say, I believe it's about 200,000 students and grades 8, 10, and 12, and look at past year use, past 30-day use, and use 2 weeks prior to the survey, as well as lifetime use as well. And they look at everything from Adderall to Xanax, and they post the findings. But if you notice on the chart here, the data shows since 1991, drinking has been declining amongst 12th grade students. Now, if anyone's going to be doing anything at a high school, it's usually grade 12. They're driving, they are a little older, they're bigger, they may have more freedom, more money. If anyone's going to be doing anything when it comes to substances, it's usually the 12th graders. But we see in 2023, of the students that were surveyed, 24% said that they had consumed alcohol in the month prior to the survey. 24%. And this is one thing that Talk It Out NC, we hang our hat on. We hang our hat on the idea of social norms. Putting out the data, if we take the data, we'll usually find, we do a survey, we usually find that people very frequently overestimate the unhealthy behaviors of their peers and underestimate the healthy behaviors. If 24% of 12th graders that were surveyed in 2023 said, yeah, I drank a month prior to the survey, how many didn't? How many didn't drink? Yeah, yeah, exactly. Almost 75%, 76%. So we want to celebrate that 76%, regardless of the reasons. The reasons really don't matter. What happens is that 24%, I think this is what's happening because a lot of college campuses, some high schools that I've worked at, they're doing social norming campaigns. Well, they will take the survey, they'll do a survey of their campus to find out specifics about, and it could be any behavior, it could be throwing trash away, it could be washing hands, but about substance use in particular, and they post the numbers because very frequently the numbers are far less than, are not the majority of students that are vaping or using nicotine pouches or even drinking. Yep. Yep. I love to see those numbers. And kids are like, oh, well, I thought everyone was drinking. And that group who chooses not to, they realize they are a part of the majority. Here in the US, this is another survey that was done by, I want to say, the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. And once again, we're seeing a steady decline of alcohol use amongst high school students. Yep, we're seeing a steady decline. There's another one. I got another one. Now, this one highlights use in Mecklenburg County, Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. Now, this is high school students who currently drank alcohol. And I want to say this is 30 days prior to the survey as well. So if 34%, 34.3% of high school students in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County that were surveyed said, yeah, I drank, how many didn't? Yeah, yeah, a large majority. A large majority. But what's happening is we're not reporting about that large majority. We're reporting about the kids who are passing out on a Saturday night. That makes the news. The kids who crashed the car, that makes the news. Not the kid who was in the library on Friday or on Saturday studying, preparing for a presentation. That doesn't make the news. We got to start celebrating that large majority of students that are making healthy decisions. Now this is for binge drinking. Remember the slide I showed you with kids just drinking out of control? It's not everyone. Actually, it's even fewer than kids who are drinking in moderation periodically. It's a lot fewer, actually. 8% of those students surveyed in 2023 said that they had consumed 4 or 5 or more drinks in one sitting 30 days prior to the survey, at least on at least one occasion. Less than 10%. Now, do we forget about that 8.8%? No, but we need to celebrate that large majority of students that are not drinking to dangerous levels, as well as do some other things as well. We need to make it difficult for kids to get their hands on alcohol. And I love the ABC Commission because the ALE, that's one of their main focuses is making sure that we keep alcohol, we make it difficult for young people to get their hands on alcohol. But the ALE does not go to people's homes and kick doors in and that type of thing and tell them to lock their alcohol up. That's where kids are getting alcohol from. They're getting it from home. So we really have to have those conversations, especially if you have alcohol in your house. We really have to have those conversations about that beverage, that this is an adult beverage, and here's why. Kids want to know why. Now, once again, we're steady declines. Now, between the changes weren't drastic from 2021 to 2023. This is another one. This is a responsibility.org. They do a survey as well. Actually, this is the SAMHSA survey. And so, like I said, 8.6 of those students that were surveyed said that, yeah, they binge drank 30 days prior to the survey. So once again, it's less than 10%, but we have to have those conversations, celebrate that large majority, but also making sure we're making it difficult for that 8.6% to binge drink. How are we doing on time here? Okay, plenty of time. All right. So let's look at some common early warning signs. How would you know that a young person has problems with is having problem with drinking alcohol or even other drugs? Now, mind you, some of these changes may look like normal teenage development. They go through all sorts of things. They struggle with things, but it's important that if you're paying attention and you're having conversations, you'll have a much better idea. And it's not always just about the grades. Sometimes it could be a change in social group. They're not hanging out with that friend those friends that they grew up with that they used to hang out with. Mind you, that could be normal development. People kind of, part ways, but it also might be something, especially if they're hanging out with a new group of friends or a new group of associates that they don't want to invite to the house. They don't want you to meet, they don't want you to know this group. Um, Having less motivation to participate in things they used to love to do. That's a big one for marijuana. Marijuana causes something called amotivational syndrome, where a person just the things they used to love to do, they just kind of just stop doing them. Um, Catching them in a lie, that's a big red flag. If you're catching them, especially if it's a lie surrounding alcohol or other drugs, those are big red flags. All right. So but if you're having conversations with your kids, you'll have an idea. Now, this is a poll I'm gonna take real quick. I want you to type in the chat your response. The greatest influence on a teen's decision to drink or not to drink is what? Peers, social media, parents and caregivers, media such as advertise or media like movies and songs, things like that, or advertising. I'll give you a second here. Give you a quick 5 seconds. Type it in. What do you think? All right. Survey said you, parents. Survey after survey after survey has shown that adults have the greatest level of influence on a young person's decision to drink or not to drink. Yep. It's not TV ads, it's not peers, it's not even social media. Even though more advertisements that young people see increases the likelihood that they'll have a favorable attitude about alcohol, parents are the ones, caregivers. Students have told me they want to hear it from adults. They want to hear it from their caregivers. They want to hear it from you. Even though they may not be listening, it sends a very clear message when you're having conversations with them about alcohol in particular, what your rules are about alcohol for them, what the consequences of breaking those rules will be, and why you don't want them drinking as a high school student. Ladies and gentlemen, young people are watching. They're paying attention. They're not just listening, but they're watching. I can remember several times working with younger students, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. And students will ask, "Well, Mr. Poole, if I'm out at dinner with my friends and with my friend and her parents, and they're both drinking, how do I get home?" Yeah, They're watching. They're paying attention because we're talking about binge drinking and drinking and driving and those risks, and they may find themselves in a situation where they don't know how to deal with this right here. Now, this whole idea about do as I say and not as I do, I think that's kind of outdated. Kids are, they have access to all of the information ever written in their smartphones, so they need a little more than just do what I say and not as I do. It's like, what message does that send to them? For a teenager whose parents binge drink, they're 4 times more likely to binge drink themselves. They're at least 4 times more likely to binge drink themselves. Research one of the surveys I've research has shown that 80% of students, 80%, ages 10 to 18, said that their parents are the leading influence. It's their parents, their caregivers. So what can parents do? Students that perceive that their parents are involved in their day-to-day activities, as well as students who can say, yeah, my parents are involved in my day-to-day. They're involved, they're totally involved, are less likely to use substances. Yep. So it's not just the conversations, it's the actions as well. It's the actions as well. So what do we do? Increase those protective factors in their lives. You are I would say, the top protective factor in their lives as adults. So keep yourself healthy. Keep yourself healthy. Yeah. But also model those behaviors that you want to see in your young person. Model those behaviors. When it comes to stress relief, what do you do? How do you relieve stress? And let them see, if it's healthy, how you relieve stress. If it's healthy. If you smoke, you might want to consider giving it up. Kids know smoking is at its lowest point it's been in history. Why? Because we keep talking about how unhealthy it is. We've changed the laws about smoking. Y'all probably, I don't know. I remember smoking sections in restaurants. Yeah, y'all probably don't remember that. I remember smoking cigarette machines in the bowling alley and the bus. I remember smoking ashtrays on buses. On Greyhound, but an ashtray right there. So everyone was able to experience your habit, your smoking. The cigarette smoke just permeated the air. Remember smoking and non-smoking sections in restaurants? Yeah, I probably don't remember that. I remember, and all the smoke stayed over in the smoking section, right? No, the smoke permeated the entire building. And secondhand smoke kills people. About 40,000 people a year die from secondhand smoke. Yep. So we want to make sure that we are increasing those protective factors in our kids. Set the example. I recommend practicing with them what they might say if they are exposed to alcohol, maybe vaping or other drugs. Yeah, you be the peer pressurer. I heard an interesting quote. Someone said it's not necessarily peer pressure these days, it's more peer presence. The people they decide to hang around, that makes a huge difference in their lives. They say birds of a feather flock together. I tell kids all the time, if you hang around people who vape and you're around them on a consistent basis and they vape on a consistent basis, it's just a matter of time before you try it. You want to try it, whether they pressure you or not. So practice with them. Give them the words to say. Kids practice everything. They practice for the game. They practice for the recital. They practice for the test, but they seldom practice social situations. And then they find themselves in a social situation with no practice, no experience. So give them the words to say. Because listen, some of their peers will say some of the meanest things they can to get them to do what they think they should be doing. Come on, bro. Don't be a insert name here. I heard one role play activity we did in class one day. This one girl, she was the peer pressurer. Actually, it was 3 of them pressuring one girl to drink, and the one girl was at the party by herself. So it kind of highlights their strength in numbers, positive or negative. And this one girl says to the other girl, she said, "You're not going to drink with us? That's why no one likes you." Ooh. It's like, wow. People can say some very mean things, and that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure for a young person who wants to be liked, who wants to be a part of. I highly recommend you connect with other parents. Connect with other parents. Connect with talkitoutnc.org. Connect with some of these other amazing organizations that are right here in North Carolina. Make those connections. There are resources available that are online, such as webinars, all sorts of information. There's so much information that parents have to educate themselves on what the risks are. The stakes are too high. Young people who are binge drinking are more likely to try other drugs. And now that's a whole nother webinar. We lose the equivalent of a high school student, a high school classroom every week here in our country from fentanyl overdose. And for some reason, it's not on the news every single night. It should be on the news every single night. There should be a ribbon going across the bottom of the screen. I don't understand. I don't understand why we're not talking about it more. So it's going to take us as caregivers, as parents, as professionals to make sure that we're keeping our kids, we're increasing those protective factors. Make it difficult for kids to get their hands on alcohol. Make it difficult. The whole shoulder tapping in the parking lot, the kid asking on a Friday night, Mister, will you go buy some beer? Nope. No, I'm sorry, I don't do that. How old are you? Obviously, they're underage, but it's illegal. A little opportunity for a seminar there on the risks of underage drinking. Kids have said, teenagers have said, for me to tell parents, don't provide us with alcohol. Don't give us out. Kids have said that to me in class. It puts them in a weird space, and we're talking about all the risks of underage drinking, and then they go home and, mom says, would you like a glass of wine with dinner? Once again, there's no research that supports the idea that allowing a young person to consume alcohol creates a responsible drinker. But there is a ton of data to support just the opposite of that. Making sure we're paying attention, making sure we're doing our best to make sure that they have adequate sleep, that they're healthy. Any issues that might be going on especially from a mental health standpoint, we can tell when they got a cold, but we're not always able to tell when they're struggling with mental health issues. Sometimes it doesn't show as easily as an allergy. All right. So we have to pay attention, but also have those conversations. It's recommended that parents set very clear boundaries about alcohol. My question is, if we allow kids to drink, do we start to pick and choose which other laws they follow? Because it is illegal here in the state of North Carolina and nationwide to drink under age 21. Now, once again, police aren't going to kick your door in if you're having wine with your kids at dinner. And it sounds kind of like not as harmful having wine with dinner, right? But for a teenager, it might be very harmful having wine with dinner. Making sure that you have established clear and consistent consequences. Young people don't really operate well with gray areas. I want you to make good decisions. Like, what does that mean for a young person? Okay, if I just have a six pack opposed to binging, actually, drinking a six pack in one setting is binging. But okay, well, I'm not going to drive drunk. We're just going to get an Uber. Yeah, that's somewhat responsible. But if you're passed out in the Uber, how responsible is that? We have to make sure that they're very clear. They're very clear on what your rules are for them, what your consequences are for them as well, and help them formulate the consequences. Now, mind you, they may be a little more strict than you would be, but that's where it comes back to those conversations, having those conversations early and often. And something about eating together. I don't know what it is. The research supports that eating together, it does something. There's some benefits to it. I remember having conversations, not a whole lot though at dinner. My parents weren't. My dad was kind of the strong, silent, pay the bill type guy. But I remember mom frequently asking us about, about our days and that type of things and conversations. I grew up in a time where kids were seen and not heard, so there wasn't a whole lot of conversation going on. And I don't know, who knows? Maybe that's why I kind of went the direction I did. Who knows? I'm not blaming my parents at all. I'm not blaming my parents at all, but I kind of wish we had talked more about feelings and issues and opinions that I had as a young person. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to wrap it up here, I I want to share with you, like I said, every time I work with students, especially high school students, I ask them, what should I tell adults about raising you? What advice would you give? Here's my list right here. Take a screenshot of it, if you will. Kids have said they want to hear it from you. Have conversations with me about the risks of alcohol and other drugs. Kids have said, don't lecture. It's a conversation is just that, a giving and exchanging of ideas and comments, and it's a two-way street. It's back and forth. It's not just a lecture. It's back and forth. It's open-ended questions. Kids said, set a good example. Kids want to see a healthy example. They want to see. Talk about real life situations. You know, and if you don't have any real life situations to talk about, go online. There's all sorts of situations that are happening currently where young people are struggling with alcohol and other drugs. It's heartbreaking to watch some of those videos of parents that lost a kid to fentanyl. I have to turn it off sometimes. I can't watch much of it because it's just, and we're not talking about what we used to call the burnout kids. We're not talking about those kids that are moving in that direction. I think that's going to happen. We're talking about the star quarterback who made a mistake, bought a pill online, bought what he thought was a Vicodin or a Percocet or OxyContin, and it wasn't. It was a mixture of filler, fentanyl, and food coloring. That's it. That's all the pill was. And he's gone forever. It's happening right here in North Carolina as well. That's why we have to have those conversations. Kids have said, try not to lose your temper. Try not to lose your temper. All right. And you may not actually understand what I'm going through. I mean, think about it. How many of you all grew up with the internet? You grew up from a toddler, from a young person with the internet, with access to all of the information ever known to man in your hand. How many of you all grew up with that? We had Encyclopedia Britannica, but we didn't have all the information ever known to man in our hands. We didn't have that capability. This generation does. Some kids don't know what it's like to exist without social media. Yeah. So you may not actually understand what they're going through, but try. Do your best. Try. Be patient. Kids have said, ask me what I want to do and let's do that. Just you and I. Nothing like that one-on-one time. I remember fishing trips with my dad, just he and I. I remember vividly getting up before the break of day and heading out and getting on the water. I cherish those memories. Kids have said they want you to check up on them. They want to be held responsible. They want to be held accountable. Ask me who, what, when, why, and where. How many of you all remember a kid in your neighborhood whose parents didn't really keep up with them? Kids, that kid or those kids who didn't have a time to be home. Yeah, I remember. I remember a couple of them. Yeah, and kids have said, if you freak out when I tell you stuff, I'll stop telling you stuff. Yeah. So be careful not to freak out. Give us some thought about what you should do if they drop some information on you that's kind of heavy about something they heard about or something they know about. Be very careful about how you don't fly off the handle. Don't forbid them from hanging out with that person. You might want to just give us some thought. Give us some thought about what do you think we should do about this situation, and to have conversation with them about what do you think we should do about this situation. And think about it. How do you learn about relationships? We should have that. That should be a class along with financial responsibility. But how to learn about how'd you learn about relationships? Was it trial and error? I think that's why a lot of adults struggle today. We never really learned about relationships. It's kind of like trial and error. Kind of do what you think is best. Some kids they need to hurt. Some kids want to hear that. They want to hear it from you. They want you to teach them about relationships. All right. So as we wrap it up here, I want to encourage you to realize, ladies and gentlemen, that all student use carries with it some risks. All student use carries with it some risks. Delayed use has been proven to prevent later issues. You minimize the risk of them having a substance use disorder, but also a whole host of other negative outcomes by delaying use, by delaying introduction of alcohol. And the majority of students are making healthy choices. The majority. Celebrate them. All right. Celebrate the majority of students. as well as, ladies and gentlemen, you have influence. You have influence. Here's some resources. I love our website. We take painstakingly time, with a large amount of time to make sure that our website is it's way better than it was when I started 6 years ago. We have, like I said, that group of people. We spend a lot of time on making sure that our website is nice and functional and adds value. That's our objective. We want to have an impactful website. There's a ton of information at Talk It Out NC. I like the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. A lot of really good information there. It's kind of at the, I would say, at the master's, the PhD level when it comes to statistics and facts and what's going on currently. Drugfree.org is very user friendly, very user friendly. You can go on there with your child even, and there's some information there that you can educate yourself as well as educate them. And I like SAMHSA's website as well. A lot of really good information on SAMHSA's website. Let's work together. Let's connect. Please feel free to reach out, connect with me. Send me an email if you have a event coming up or a group that I could talk to, parents, students, assemblies. Assemblies are good, but smaller, more, I say, focused energy, yeah, I think is much better. Those intimate conversations where young people can ask questions and get information. Pick a couple grade levels and let's move in that direction. But assemblies, we'll do assemblies as well. And like I said, we cover 100 counties, every county here in the state. We have ambassadors strategically set up throughout the county, throughout the state that are amazing. And our ambassadors are really, I can't speak highly enough for our ambassadors. They have full-time jobs and they still do this work. They still do this work. So as we wrap it up here, let's see. I think I have one or two more slides. Is that it? Oh, there's my thank you slide. All right, merci. Questions? Were there any questions in the chat, Heather?
I did not see any questions, just some chit chat, but
Okay.
nothing major. So yeah,
Okay.
great job as
Okay.
always, Rodney.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen, I so appreciate you all logging in today. I really appreciate you. And we are available. So please reach out to us if we can connect with you and collaborate. We would love to. We would absolutely love to. So if there are no other questions, thank you all so much. Happy holidays and take care of yourselves. Keep up the good work.